What's up, everybody? Welcome to the damn video. How are you? I'm great. Thank you for asking. We are in for legs today. It's Wednesday currently. I've got legs on Sunday, so I'm a little bit apprehensive, but it's going to be worth it. Just getting a pre-workout in. I haven't chosen which one. I have to scour my car for a pre-workout to find out which one. But we're going to get into it. We've got a big leg session today. I'm probably going to talk you through everything. I've got a new mic system, so I'm going to talk through everything, explain the reasons why we do things, and get into it that way. Let's get it. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna start with adductors. Now, the reason why I start with adductors is pretty much because no one fucking does adductors. So I'm gonna stick them first, but also our ability to get our quadriceps and of course our adductors contracted as possible. That ability to get contracted as possible will diminish as you work through your workout. So a lot of people will stick adductors and abductors on the end of a session when you're pretty much fatigued and you just see people they're just getting it done because they're trying to get it done. But we're fresh, we're feeling good. It's not very taxing because it's a very isolatory movement. So we can get away with getting some good work in, warming up everything as well, the hips, everything like that, because we're gonna go squatting a little bit. And we can just move forward from here. Okay. Yeah.
Next Mondays with RV.
My brothers don't die, we just rusty bark. I tell you, I got to link me at the coffee shop. Getting freaky in the sheets, we're taking.
Something I do on exercises where I'm doing the full stack and I haven't got a weight extender, I can't put pins in. I'll do a rest pause. Now, a rest pause, it's essentially you're hitting failure within a rep range. So this was like a 10 to 15 rep range. You're resting 20 seconds only. You're hitting the same weight again, and then you're going again. So I get a lot of people who are getting really fucking strong come to me and say, what can I do to get more weight on, to get more reps out? Rest pause. It's an intensity technique. It fucking burns, but you're getting a lot more volume at a heavier weight versus doing a drop set or something. Would recommend it. So similarly with the adductors, the ability to get short will diminish. So we're coming onto a leg extension first now. The reason why I'm coming onto a leg extension first is because this top third of the motion here and getting your quad fully contracted in this position is something that you don't necessarily do on a leg press, on a hack squat. You don't ever fully extend. You don't lock your knees out because you're gonna snap some shit up, right? So that ability to do that will diminish if you do a leg press first, if you do a hack squat first, and then if you go into a leg extension afterwards, you're because of the fatigue buildup, because of the blood in the muscle, to get that leg fully straightened out is going to be a lot more difficult. I'm not saying you can't do it, I'm just saying I don't know whether it would be optimum. So I've been doing my leg extension first for a very long period of time now. A lot of people will say, do you think you can get as much out of your bigger lifts, for example, a leg press, hack squat, if you do a leg extension first? Now, I rest enough. Like, I'm gonna do these 2 sets now, and I'm probably gonna rest 5 to 10 minutes before I even go onto a leg extension or onto a leg press or a hack squat, for example. It's a single joint movement. We're just extending at the knee and kind of get fully contracted at the knee. We're not engaging our hips, not engaging our ankles. There's gonna be a lot less central nervous system demand on an exercise like this versus a leg press. So in my opinion, if you're fucked after a couple of leg extensions to do a leg press, you need to assess your training intensity, assess your recovery. But you'll be fine. Try it, let me know how you get on. Also get a better connection to my quads and more blood in the knees, so it's a lot safer. So that's why we're doing it. Let's hope this holds.
What else could I possibly do to make noise? I touched on everything but no noise. And that's not a stab at Michael. That's just a metaphor. I'm just psycho. I go a little bit crazy sometimes. I get a little bit out of control with my rhymes. Good God, do a little slide. Bend down, touch your toes, and just glide up the center of the dance floor.
You can tell I'm putting on weight. 9 reps, I'm gassed. So we've hit our 2 isolatory exercises to get nice and short. Now we're gonna work that. To be honest, on this machine, I'm gonna be mostly working the mid-range just because I can't get low enough on this. And you'll see when I get into this from the side profile, any lower, my lumbar is gonna roll off the pad. And as soon as you lose that spinal integrity from a straight position, you start to curve at the bottom. You're gonna have a chink in the armor, essentially. You're gonna have a higher risk of injury. It doesn't mean you're gonna get injured, it just means your risk of injury is gonna increase, and that's something that I'm just trying to look to avoid. I actually am gonna take the weight down a little bit, play with my foot position, see if I can get a little bit lower. But those of you guys who've been following the channel for a while, you'll see me on a pendulum squat. I can ass to heels easily, but just the way this is built with my biomechanics, individual biomechanics, for me, I can't get low enough, but there's no other machine in here that I can use. So I'm gonna do one all-out set on this. I'm then gonna get a little bit more out of a leg press because I've got more range of motion. I'll do a few more sets on there. So one all-out set on this. This is our loading set, working that mid-range, potentially a little bit shortened and potentially a little bit of lengthened, but I can't get fully lengthened in this position. I get questions about leg sleeves, knee sleeves, a lot. Now, I'm not a big fan of the really tight ones, the ones that are gonna give you a little bit of spring, just because it's taking away from the lift. But I am a fan of sleeves just because they keep heat in the joint. They do support when you're most vulnerable, potentially when you're kind of in that fully lengthened position for the quad. But I'm a big fan of them just to keep heat in the joint and keep things warm. And potentially, like if it helps 5%, whatever, you know, it's not a big deal, but I would stay away from the really tight ones. I wouldn't use wraps ever. I think they just cause a little bit too much clunking within the knee, a little bit too much support. And similarly for squat shoes, you don't need them, but if you get a little bit more range of motion with them, don't be afraid to use them. There's no reason why you shouldn't. But if you do squat well without them, then just stay squatting without them. So we're gonna stick this band over right now. And you can obviously see as we get further away from the seat pad, the tension in this is gonna get stronger, which is gonna overload the top of the movement, which is essentially when our quads are strongest, like in that short position what we said. So I talk about resistance profiles, talk about strength profiles. The strength profile of a quad or a push is kind of like weak to strong. So this essentially is going to offload when you're weakest and load when you're strongest, thus matching the resistance profile of the machine with the strength profile of the quad. And this is what we're trying to do throughout these workouts, so we'll get into it. Okay, that felt good. If I spit up at you because I'm frothing, I apologize. Oosh. Oh my God, that was heavy.
Can we find the YouTube thumbnail?
That was heavy. I was a bit scared to go a bit lower. Just getting caught here with you on me like that. Moved it though. That's nearly half a ton. Add the band, it's about 30 kilos at the top. I would never normally prescribe intra-workout stretching. Like you want to be pretty elastic, like pretty fucking like tight and ready to when you lift, because we're trying to explode. We're not trying to be flexible. So I would never really recommend stretching before a workout. Potentially after, just to kind of help P&L. Like there's some pretty good research into saying stretching will help your parasympathetic nervous system, control your heart rate and stuff. But intra-workout, I'd never do it. The reason I'm doing it is because I'm trying to get lower on this leg press. My calves are getting tight, so a little bit of stretching in that case, that's all right. But if you're getting flexible hips, flexible knees, flexible shoulders when you're trying to lift, I wouldn't recommend against it. We started off with our isolations, or some sort of isolation for the quad, just to kind of get everything warm. We did our bread and butter. We did our big V squat. We did our 2 sets on the banded leg press. So that is a huge part of mechanical tension in terms of overload and weight done. Because we're now fatigued, because energy stores are starting to deplete, it makes a lot of sense to kind of move into some more energy efficient exercises. So we're gonna go into some more isolations. We're gonna go into some hamstrings. We've got 2 sets on the lying hamstring, we've got 2 sets on the hyperextension, and then we're gonna be done. Now, I realize I'm making this sound very, very fancy because most people do their isolations after a leg press and stuff, but this is just reasoning behind it, right? There's a reason why you do isolations or some sort of isolation after these, because they're energy efficient. They're not as hard, they're only single joint movements. You're literally You know, in a hamstring curl, you're moving your heel towards you, and that's it. You know, you're not going through this big, huge motion with 400 kilos on you and a band. We're just sticking, you know, whatever, it's not gonna go up above 100 kilos unless you're fucking strong. It's not gonna be that demanding from you. So we're gonna take control, go through some isolations just on the posterior. Obviously, I break down my posterior, my anterior a little bit, so I have that back and the pull and back session. Sorry, my leg and back session, which you saw me fail on Sunday in the latest video. But from there, on that session, there's a lot more hamstrings first, and on this session, you can see there's a lot more quads first. So we're just flipping that on its head, putting hamstrings last. My legs are blown. So last video, when I was in MuscleWorks, when I tried it, you saw me talk about the changing of this, your arm position to maximize that resistance profile that we talked about again. So I'm gonna keep saying this shit because you need to learn this stuff. It's very, very good. So we're gonna start out with the weight up high. This is gonna increase the weight loaded. And obviously as we become shorter and shorter, it's gonna get harder and harder. So we're gonna slowly ease off that weight as we get closer and closer by bringing it in closer to our center of mass, which is essentially just offsetting that line of force and allowing the weight to drop off a little bit. So you'll see how we do this. You can literally test it yourself. So get on a hyperextension, get into a nice correct position where your hips are lying here, and hold the weight out in front of you and try and keep it the whole way forward. You'll feel it get harder and harder, and as you get fatigued, you'll feel it to the point where that top third of the motion, you won't be able to move it, but the bottom third you will. And that is your cue to bring the weight in. Then as soon as you start bringing that weight in, you'll notice the difference and you'll feel the drop off. So I think we could dispel some bro myths while we're here. I remember when I was younger and I first started training. I started training about 16, maybe 17. I didn't start training properly until about 20, but when I started going to the gym, 16, 17, I remember you'd go in, you have your pre-workout, and you'd go for your pre-game dump. I remember opposite where you'd be sitting on the toilet, there would be a sheet of paper, and it used to say, make sure you get your whey protein in within 20 minutes of a workout. It's proven to build muscle. I used to do that every single day. I used to get a stomachache, and I never used to know why. But if you think about training as a stimulus, we're going to increase our systemic fatigue and our systemic inflammation. If we're in an inflamed state, if we're in a sympathetic state, when our drive is high, heart rate is going to be a little bit higher. We know that digestive enzymes are going to get down-regulated. Fluid to the stomach is going to get down-regulated, which is a good thing when you're training, because you don't want the fluid to be in all the blood to be in your stomach. You want it to be everywhere else. So it's a good thing to be sympathetic in a workout, but you don't just stop your workout and then within 20 minutes just come back to baseline. You know, your heart rate is still going to be high. You're still going to be warm. You're probably still going to be sympathetic. So unless you do something to either break that up and switch over to a parasympathetic state, that you're probably going to be, I'm not going to say doing more harm than good, because that's definitely not the case. You're still going to get a lot of benefits out of eating post, but it's not necessarily going to make any difference whatsoever eating 20 minutes to even up to an hour. You just need to be conscious of being inflamed in a systemic position, you know, where you've built up inflammation and then you're just receiving more food when you're not ready for it. Doesn't make sense in my head, and we know that from pretty much the consensus of research at the moment is that it doesn't make a difference. And even to the point that it doesn't make a difference if it's protein, and it could be just carbohydrates that are making an effect. So my recommendation, wait 45 minutes, wait till heart rate comes down to baseline, relax, sit, do whatever you want to do, watch YouTube, chill out, and then have your meal with protein and carbs, and maybe some fats.
In my sliders and my shorts. Chick's trying to get my brother to share his thoughts. I think he's trying to tell me I should tell her he don't talk, I don't fuck with her. Yeah, I used to hit it, but you're stuck with her. Man, I wouldn't even try my luck with her. Yeah, let's say I'm bougie, way too exclusive. Chilling in Dubai, know I get it all inclusive. Now may I ask if you can find it in your spirit to leave us all alone and go and mind your fucking business. Looking in the mirror saying my key or the illest. When I'm James Bond trying to live my movie like I'm Idris, so we telling them, look, my brothers don't die, we just fussy but I tell you I got to link me at the coffee shop, getting freaky in the sheets, we're taking body shots. Then I finish with a fist just to top it off.
So I'm actually going to leave that video there. I think I talked a fair amount in it, right? And that is one style of filming or videography that I really enjoy. Like, I enjoy taking you through movements. I enjoy breaking down the movements. So let me know if you enjoy this type of video. Slightly different. But I've also got things like edits coming. I'm training on Sunday with, I'm not going to tell you who, actually, a couple of boys. In fact, comment down below if you can guess who. So that'll be like a more of an edit. You know, we'll get somewhere we're really breaking down exercises, a little bit like today, but today was more just why we're doing things. And we've got so much more to come. Like, I've got a lot of content planned for this year. I've got a lot of things that I want to be able to bring to the table that I wanted to have when I was a little bit younger and I started coming up in the YouTube world. So we're going to go ahead and do that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I need a shave. I know I enjoyed making it. We'll see you soon, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Peace.
My brothers don't die, we just bossy bop. I tell your girl to link me at the coffee shop. Getting freaky in the sheets, we're taking body shots. Then I finish with a face.